Hello, Mr. Mark Willis. I'm Matthew Willis. I'm glad you could join me. Is there any questions you want to ask me before we get started with this interview?
No questions at this time. Thank you for taking the time to see me during your busy day.
Oh, no worries. I appreciate you coming. So, what made you want to work in the medical field?
I think the biggest thing would be going back to when I was a kid. I always had a passion for helping others and going through medicine. And I had a couple of other family members that were in the medical field, and they always professed how much enjoyment and how much fulfillment they got out of the field. So it was a case of long-term enjoyment as well as long-term interest coming together to make it seem like a good career decision.
Sounds great. So, what are some qualities that you would use to describe yourself?
um, I guess if I had to describe myself for a medical field, I would say hardworking. Um, I'm very dedicated and I'm willing to put in the hours. I do a good job with time management, but I really pride myself on being able to go the distance, so to speak. I'm willing to take the time to put in the hours, to drive myself, to improve myself, to be there, to do everything I can to get higher professionally, but also balancing that with the work life combination so I don't burn myself out.
So, not getting burned out sort of goes into my next question of, is there a type of work culture that you enjoy more than others, or?
Very much so. I'm very much a team player in regards to most of the work experience that I want to have. Um, I enjoy having a collaborative environment where if I don't know the answer, I can turn to somebody immediately next to me or across the desk from me, and I can say, hey, I don't know this, or I'm lost, or I'm struggling with this. Can you help me out? Or if nothing else, you can bounce ideas off each other where everybody there is competent and collaborative and they're able to assist each other. So we're really able to build each other up and help make sure that nobody's just floundering or getting lost or is dropping work that then has to get shifted to other people. So for the work culture, I very much want to be part of that collaborative team group that is very open for communication and is able to address any issue that comes up immediately, as opposed to letting it just sit with somebody instead of getting that off their plate if they're not able to handle it quickly and effectively.
Okay. So you were mentioning about, asking the person to the right or left or in front of you, collaborating on ideas and such. So like, have you worked in an open floor plan with that
Yes,
environment?
I have. um, Before I was getting to this stage that I'm at in my career, or my development, I should say, I was working with medical IT tech. I apologize. I was working with medical IT technology, which we were in essence doing security for like the MRI machines and other CAT scanners. Pretty much any of the scanners, they had a security component, and I was working with a group, and we had an open floor plan where we had our pretty much our IT closet, I guess you could say, but it was really more of a room. And we had pretty much a horseshoe, and everybody had their own little desk. But we had a conference table in the center, and if anybody needed anything, you could just turn around and immediately engage with the team. So it was very effective for us because we were able to immediately engage and turn and ask for help if we needed. And then also we had our managers just one room off our main horseshoe area. So they were able to see us, they could see what work we were doing. And then we could also immediately turn and ask them for help if we needed some level of management influence or interference for whatever issue.
So, overall, were there any times that you tried something different, uh, deviate from your routine, and how did it turn out?
Okay. A little bit of a different question, but for deviating from the routine, going back to the medical IT technology stuff we were doing, it was very much a dissociative routine where we would have to deal with management one day, we would have to deal with MRI breaking or security leak happening the next day, or we were having to deal with patient files on a third day. So it was very disruptive for a routine where we would try to establish it, and we could have our standard processes and procedures that we were following that we would engage with and we would follow through normally. But then we would encounter those things that would break the routine, and normally it turned out well. And it was the case of having the skill set and the technique set that we had developed within the team, that we were able to deviate from our routines and our standard operating procedures into our succeeding for this deviation for whatever the case may be.
Okay, very interesting. So, whenever it was a disassociative, job, you doing something different each day, it sounds like it was potentially a stressful, fast-paced environment. What
Very much so.
technique? What techniques
Um,
did you use to cope with that?
yeah, very much so. It really could take a toll on you mentally whenever you're trying to provide the best service. And the key thing that I found that really helped me was practicing and developing a time management schedule. So it became very oriented to task item management and having criticality for what's come in, what's the most important, how do you address that most important thing, can you address it, and if not, getting it up to somebody who can, and being able to quickly triage and evaluate the different events that were occurring, the different instances that were occurring, and getting it sorted appropriately and handled quickly. So it was a combination of appropriate triage with time management, and that's what made us succeed in most every situation.
Yeah. Uh, you mentioned your time management, helping you deal with the stressful environment. What's another technique or skill that helped you, the most throughout your working?
As said, being able to appropriately triage, time management is probably by far the most critical of it. But being able to evaluate a situation, having enough technical knowledge on an instance to be able to address the thing appropriately, where it would be the case of I don't have exposure with, say, a CAT scanner for whatever security purpose it was, but I did have exposure to the MRI scanners. And so they have two different sets of technology that were being implemented in terms of the security side of it. So being able to say, I don't know about the CAT scanners, let me go get Marcos, who is a coworker, let me get him because he does do that. And so we were able to address that, and being able to appropriately assess each situation. And if you didn't have that exposure or that knowledge, being able to go to the people that did have that exposure and knowledge. So nobody was taking a long time with it because they could say immediately, this is outside of my realm, but I know whose realm it is. Let me go to them. And that was very much the collaborative environment that let us succeed and fire on pretty much all cylinders.
Sounds, interesting that y'all were able to do that. Um, you know, with the securities, there's always possibility of mistakes that can, lead to patient data leaked or, errors in machine. What strategies do you typically take to minimize, mistakes from happening?
Um, the biggest thing would be a ticketing system where when we had to deal with the technical side, we very much had tickets that we were operating off of. And so anytime that we had an issue that was presented, or one of the RNs or the doctors said they were having an issue or they had something break and we needed to address it, we would say, hey, here's this ticket. Let me operate off this ticket. So I could say, XYZ information is present here. Let me go to that nurse, get more information, or let me go to that doctor, get more information, or let me go to that device and take a look at it. And then once we had that ticketed information and we were able to keep a constant log of it, after we would perform our work, we would go back to the different RNs or the doctors and we would say, hey, we think we fixed this. Can you help us validate it? And they would, in essence, say, XYZ machine that was broken, tentatively fixed. And after it goes through a couple days of use and session to say, yes, this is legitimately fixed or no, it's not, it was having a second and or third party validating the different works that we did for them and making sure that that was all tied back, that it was functioning appropriately, and that they weren't having any continuing issues. So it was a check and control process.
Check and control. Okay. So, that sort of goes into my next question of, what day or what ways do you tend to organize multiple tasks? Because it sounded like, you would have multiple coming in. Is there a system that you use to prioritize tasks over others, or,
Absolutely.
deadline?
Absolutely. Whenever we would have multiple tasks that were coming in, we had a criticality method or a triage method, I guess you could say, where we would say, what is the most applicable or what is the most critical? Patient data getting leaked, that rated very highly, while a printer that may have low ink, if we knew that per the toner level that it would say, hey, this is good for another day, that's on a lower scale. So we would address what is the most important, what is the most critical, and then work our way down. And things that are low priority, they can become a high priority. And whenever that occurs, it's just a matter of shuffling what order or what priority set that we have at that time to say, we've been here, we've been working on this, now we're going over to this because it rose in criticality based off whatever reason it could be, where that toner that we thought was good for a day with the printer turned out that it was yesterday that toner was, and now we have to have that up and running right now because that's impacting patient service. So we would have to say, hey, this printer is now high priority. It may take a little bit of time to fix it, but it's still higher priority than something that just came in that isn't an immediate address.
Okay. That sounds great, using like a triage system, which they do, in the emergency room to assign, patients that need to be seen first, or, more serious conditions, higher priority. So that's great to hear. Is there any questions that you may have for me about us or the hospital?
What type of workload would I potentially anticipate going into?
So overall, we have two systems of 5-day, 2-day, meaning you work 5 or you're off 2, and then that alternates each week. And the shifts are 7 to 7, so 12 hours. And it really depends on the day, because every day is different. You'll have different patients coming in, and you see a wide variety of everything. But you see more things than others, high yield, so you become accustomed to them and almost become routine. And then some days are busier than others, and working on the fly, an ever-changing environment. So, yeah.
Okay. Second follow-up question to that then is, what are the certs or the education field that y'all would want to see me focus on first, or that I need to start focusing on now prior to getting in?
So I would recommend, a college degree or an associate's Uh, and then, we'll put you through the training that you need to get certifications, depending on what we may want you to do, whether that might be drug screens or EKGs. We'll send you to specific classes that will teach you and certify you in those things as, as best we see.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Nothing else is coming to mind. Is there anything else that I need to address, or do we need to potentially arrange a follow on?
No, I think, I've heard everything, I wanted to hear, and I'm very pleased with how, this interview went. I look forward to talking to you again and wish you the very best.
Thank you. Same to you.
And thank you for coming, and I'm glad we were able to do this.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know that y'all have been slammed, so thank you.
Sounds great. Hope to hear from you soon.
Sure thing. Have a good one.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.